I never thought a few simple psychology facts would end up saving my life. Not in a metaphorical way, I mean, literally saving me from being completely destroyed, mentally and emotionally. I had always thought psychology was just something people studied for fun, or to analyze others in conversation. But then life pushed me into situations where understanding human behavior became my only shield. You might not believe me now, but by the end of this story, you'll see exactly why knowing these 5 things about the human mind can be the difference between being manipulated and surviving it. Tell me honestly, what would you have done if you were in my place? It started 2 years ago, when I met Daniel. He was charming, funny, and had this calm confidence that could make anyone feel safe. I was in a vulnerable place back then, recovering from a breakup, lonely, and desperate to feel valued again. When he looked at me, it felt like I mattered. Within a few weeks, we were inseparable. My friends said he was moving too fast, but I ignored them. I thought they were just jealous. Little did I know, the first psychology fact was already at play. People who try to isolate you emotionally, even subtly, are not protecting you. They're controlling you. Daniel didn't stop me from meeting my friends directly. He just made me feel guilty whenever I did. "I just miss you when you're gone," he'd say. It sounded sweet, but every time, I'd cancel my plans just to make him happy. Months went by, and I started noticing small things like how he'd always correct my stories or act irritated when I expressed opinions he didn't like. It made me doubt myself. That's when I learned the second psychology fact. When someone repeatedly makes you question your own memory, your emotions, or your worth, it's not love. It's gaslighting. He'd say things like, "You're overreacting," or "That never happened." I started apologizing for everything. My confidence disappeared. I became a version of myself that existed only to please him. I thought I was losing my mind. One night, I broke down crying after another argument that somehow became my fault. He stood there, calm and expressionless, and said, "You know, you really need help. You're unstable." That sentence shattered me. But instead of defending myself, I started wondering if he was right. That's the third psychology fact. When you spend too much time around emotionally abusive people, your brain adapts to survive, not to thrive. You start to believe their version of reality, because your mind prioritizes peace over truth. I was trapped, not physically, but emotionally. I kept telling myself that maybe if I just tried harder, loved him more, things would go back to how they were in the beginning. But the truth was, the version of him I fell for never existed. That was just the mask he wore, a psychological trick manipulators use to gain control. They study you first, your likes, fears, insecurities, and then mirror you. By the time I realized it, I was already too deep in his web. That's when something inside me broke. I started reading psychology articles late at night, desperate to understand what was happening to me. And that's when I found the fourth psychology fact: people's patterns never lie. No matter what words they use, their consistent behavior reveals their true intentions. I started paying attention not to what he said, but to what he did. Every time I confronted him, he twisted my words. Every time I was hurt, he played the victim. Slowly, the illusion started to fade. One evening, I decided to test him. I acted distant, pretending to be busy. Within hours, he started texting nonstop, accusing me of not caring about him. Then, he showed up at my door, furious. His calm charm was gone. That's when I saw his real face: angry, controlling, desperate to keep his power over me. My hands were shaking, but I stayed quiet. That silence made him uncomfortable. And here comes the fifth and most important psychology fact that saved my life. Silence is the loudest weapon against manipulators. They feed off your reaction. When you stop giving it to them, they lose control. That night, I didn't argue, didn't explain, didn't cry. I just said, "You should go." And for the first time, he actually did. After he left, I collapsed. It felt like I had just escaped from something I didn't fully understand. Days later, I blocked his number, deleted every message, and started rebuilding my life from scratch. I began therapy, learned about emotional abuse, and realized that understanding human psychology isn't just for academics. It's survival. Because every manipulator, every toxic person, every liar uses psychology, whether they know it or not. And if you don't understand it, you'll always be the one being played. Months passed, and I finally started to feel like myself again. My therapist once told me something that stuck with me. When you heal, the same behavior that used to confuse you will start to disgust you. She was right. I could finally see the manipulation in others, even in small things. The guilt tripping, the silent treatment, the fake apologies, it was all so clear now. I started helping my friends recognize it too. One of them was in the same situation I had been in, crying over someone who kept breaking her down. I told her the 5 psychology facts that saved me. She didn't believe me at first, but weeks later, she called me crying, saying, "You were right. I see it now." So that's why I'm sharing this story. Not because I want pity, but because I know there's someone watching right now who's in the same place I once was, confused, lost, doubting yourself. If that's you, listen carefully. If someone makes you feel small, uncertain, or constantly guilty, that's not love. That's control. If you're constantly explaining yourself, apologizing for your emotions, or walking on eggshells, your body already knows what your mind refuses to accept. Get out. You don't need to wait for a breaking point to save yourself. Sometimes, survival starts the moment you decide you deserve peace more than approval. Before I tell you how it ended, let me ask, what would you have done? Would you have stayed, hoping things would change, or walked away like I did, knowing you might lose everything? I still think about that sometimes. Maybe if I had stayed longer, I would have lost more than my confidence, maybe even my sense of self completely. Because that's what emotional control does. It kills you from the inside out, slowly, until you forget who you are. The last time I saw Daniel, he tried to contact me through a fake account. He said he missed me, that he'd changed. But I didn't reply, not because I was angry, but because I no longer needed closure. Sometimes silence is closure. He eventually stopped, and that was the final confirmation that I had won, not the argument, but my freedom. Now, whenever someone asks me what psychology fact everyone should know, I tell them this. People show you who they are, not through their words, but through how they make you feel. If someone drains your energy, makes you feel confused, or constantly leaves you anxious, your nervous system is warning you before your logic catches up. That's the real psychology most people ignore. And when you understand that, you stop chasing explanations and start protecting your peace. So yes, psychology saved my life. Not by giving me revenge or justice, but by giving me awareness. It taught me that knowledge isn't just power, it's protection. If you've ever been manipulated, lied to, or broken down by someone who claimed to love you, you're not weak. You were just too kind to see the game. But now you know. Learn these facts, remember them, and never let anyone rewrite your reality again. If you are on my side, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And tell me in the comments, have you ever noticed these signs in someone before? I'll see you all in the next story.